at that point, or have you dropped off the road and you're doing 100% mountain bike at that point?
The road rides, the mileage will go down drastically,
Okay.
or I'll be pretty much strictly mountain bike by then. And then mountain biking, or I don't have a fat bike myself, but other people will fat bike down into 0-degree weather. In which case, when it's that cold for me, I have like a thin, I think it's called a glove liner, and I think it's wool. And then I have a pair of, they're called lobster mitts. And so I don't know if I have them. Actually, I do. So these are Pearl Izumis, and I've had these for quite a while. But nice. They have two fingers cool. Here, two fingers here, and then your thumb. So you can still, even on a road bike, you can still activate the brakes and the shifters.
Oh, cool.
It gives you just enough dexterity to keep control of everything. But it has to be really cold for me to use these. Otherwise, it's just layering either the glove warmers and like a heavy ski glove or the lobster mitts.
Gotcha. Yeah, thanks.
No problem.
Sorry to step away. I had a Cheerios emergency in live stream land.
Right. Well, see, that kind of stuff happens. That's awesome.
It happens.
In between, Hey, Tommy, looks like you're having some internet connection. I see you got a poor audio internet signal. There you go. He's back. Okay. So like I said, I mean, and Skeeter, again, it's definitely something that is for the hardened folks to ride in colder temperatures. Now
this will be my first winter, Jonah, riding in the fall as we're approaching. I mean, I bought a new bike, and I haven't been on a bike, candidly, guys, for 15, 20 years. Decided I wanted to start getting back in shape, so I went out and spent a whole bunch of money on a Trek carbon fiber bike. Things incredible. It feels effortless on the road. But as we're hitting the fall now, I'm starting to say, can I use this thing in the winter, or do I bring it in the house here? And do I put it on one of those cycle things that so I can basically cycle in the inside? What do you guys think on that?
Well, again, you've touched on a couple key points there. I mean, one of the first things you need to remember is that safety is always the most important. I mean, you need to ride. Number one, you need to ride in the conditions that you feel safe. Okay, that's definitely number one. And then number two is you'll get to that point of tolerance. And I know, Gunnar, you can probably relate to this, and Tommy, you're a snowboarder. You can probably relate to this. I mean, you just know there's like a temperature where you're just like, WTF, like I'm done.
Yeah.
Again, I'll use snowboarding. I'll use snowboarding, for example. I generally will snowboard in almost any condition, but when it gets like stupid cold and negative temperatures, ironically, that's when the snow is the best. Tommy, you know this, but forget about it. So number one, getting back to my point is safety. Skeeter, safety is definitely is key. You do need to pay particular attention to the changing surface areas, by the way. That is important, because here's the thing, and this especially in upstate in our particular region on the East Coast, is that it may not appear to be wet, but lines, the road pavements get slick. The cinder and the gravel is definitely tougher to navigate. So you do want to pay attention to those kinds of things.
So if I'm on a bike, obviously somewhat of a racing road bike, even though I'm not clearly using it for that, do I then need to scale down on tires then? Is the winter starting, as we're hitting fall, winter, do I need to start looking at new tires for that thing?
Well, yes and no. I mean, typically the tires that probably come on your bike are adequate, but to answer your question the right way, you may want to look to a tire that does have a little bit more of a robust casing to it, like a Kevlar type of casing. Definitely a thicker bike, because you're gonna see just a lot of crap come up off the road, glass. I mean, it happens. And I guess my point to you is, when you're bundled up like a polar bear, do you want to be on the side of the road changing a flat tire?
No,
probably not. So yeah, absolutely. It's your question. I mean, is it worth your time to invest in a better quality Kevlar type tire? Absolutely. In fact, I have on my single speed, I have a pair of tires like that, and I mean, I can go for forever.
But do I need to go more with something that's got more of almost like a hybrid mountain bike / road tire as we start to hit the colder weather, or is it just more of a robust tire with Kevlar kind of thing?
It's probably the tire. I mean, again, if if you choose to spend more time off of pavement, then you probably can do that. Like, for example, here in upstate New York,
Right.
if you're going to be spending some time on like the canal, I would get something that has a little bit more tread to it. I mean, not necessarily like a knobby, because obviously the thing about that is that if you do take that onto the road, I mean, that's going to cause more issues with rolling resistance. So, I mean, if you don't really plan on spending a lot of time on like the canal path or cinders, then just a better quality tire will work. One other thing that I want to piggyback on about the tire choice is fenders. Fenders, man. I'll tell you what, those. Oh yeah. You have no idea how uncomfortable it is to get, icy swamp ass because you're going through those puddles or anything like that. And not only that, it just keeps that general debris off of you, so you don't have any issues. I mean, mind you, it's not necessarily like you're trying to find the elements, but believe it or not, even if it is wet, that absolutely will lead to the fact that you may be getting cold, especially obviously the obvious part up your back, those kinds of things, your feet, especially when you're going through puddles. So yeah. Mm-hmm. And again, as far as investment, I mean, fenders are not very expensive. I can think of a great brand. I think it's SKS. They've got these things called race blades. They're very inexpensive. They're very easy to take on and off. So at any rate. So I see Frank Butkus had a question a while back. He was talking about lobster mitts. Did we answer that question? We got that. And he was talking about riding clothing. Did we answer that question? I think
yeah, I was just talking. I was talking earlier about the lobster mitts that I have a pair of those. So yeah, we kind of touched base on that. And then to just kind of piggyback on what you just said. So it sounds to me like you guys have it a little more wet than we do here in Minnesota.
It can get pretty swampy in upstate New York. Yeah.
Okay. See, what usually happens is that we have like maybe a 3-week time period where as it's transitioning, it'll be a little wet, and a lot of times I'll stay off the road or stay off the bike. And then once it kind of freezes, then it's like, okay, everything's back on again. And as long as you can watch for ice, you can pretty much ride through winter with road tires. I've done it a number of times. Now, that's not always the best choice, but I've commuted by bike through winters on regular, 25C road tires. So it's doable. But for people in my climate, then I generally recommend, if you can afford or you can find a good pair of studded tires, then a pair of those will be excellent, because then you have traction on both your front and rear tires to propel, and if you happen to go over some ice, it's not as dangerous. And so, like what John,
how easy are those
on
to ride
pavement
with?
When there's no ice? They do add a lot of friction. Just snow, it doesn't actually. Well, at least the type of snow that we get, it's usually dry, so it doesn't grip as well. Yeah. So, like I've ridden.
We get a lot of lake effect over here. I'm in like over like Gary, Chicago area, South Bend. So I get that lake effect off Lake Michigan, and we just get pounded with this wet, excuse my language, shit that's just sticky and not fun. I mean, I would get no traction with my street tires, and I was wondering if I should knob both tires or just the rear tires.
I'm sorry, I'll jump in.
No.
I would do both. I've actually have spent quite a bit of time riding with studded tires, and it is a day and night difference. As far as to Gunner's point about snow, I mean, is there an advantage in the overall traction? I mean, if it's light loose snow, it doesn't really matter. Powdery snow doesn't matter. I think hi, my name Alex asked the question about he's riding from Bangor out to the West Coast. The type of snow where the studded snow tires are beneficial is like that mealy, grippy, coarser type snow. I mean, it will definitely help. And two things where they are beneficial is cornering and turning, because typically, on a bike is when you're turning and it's obviously in loose conditions or snowy conditions. I mean, the bike will have a tendency to jettison forward. Also, You may have heard the terms hipper or high siding. That's something that will typically happen with cyclists that are trying to ride in these kind of conditions for the first time.
Hey, John, we got a question from Alec. I see that popped in. Let me, if you don't mind, let me jump into that and answer that. So, Alec, hey, in upstate New York, how good is the weather? Mid-October, actually, and Jonah, jump in. You're from upstate here as well, but you can get really nice days in the middle of October. I mean, you might see 60-degree weather. Maybe some high 70s. 50-degree weather is pretty typical in there. You can get some rain, depending on how wet the fall is. But if it was like last year, this time last year, we were seeing 30-degree nights in Rochester, and then we had sort of almost a heat wave come through in the middle of October. I think you'll see that again this year. So honestly, through October, you can probably get some decent riding without either getting completely drenched or dealing with snow.
Yeah.
I got a question getting back to the clothing issue here. You would call me new, I guess. I'm a newbie. I used to ride quite a bit, and I just kind of got back into it because I bought the Chariot like Jonah had today for my son. He's 14 months old. So I started getting back into it. I pretty much because of Mr. The Bike Boss up there. And just started getting at it, and my clothing, I don't have the clothing here. I did ride in the rain a few days ago, and that was bad because I have no fenders, Jonah. And my clothing is not up to par. I'm not saying it's not up to par. I dress great, but I don't have the typical. Thanks, sir. I don't have the typical like riding attire. Like I ride in basketball shorts, sometimes like warm up pants, swishy pants. And my biggest problem there. Is I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. My biggest problem there is for the simple fact that 2 days ago I got my leg caught up in my and took a tumble. So this, I'm 6 foot tall, 250 pounds. That didn't feel good. You know what I mean? Yep. So I totally probably should get something that's a little more slim fitting, but I just can't break myself into it. I don't know what it is.
There's two. I
don't want that to happen
things
again.
Going on, and it seems like we're bridging back to the clothing thing because I see some feedback coming in from UR Mechanic. To one extreme to the next here. If you talk about warmer temperatures. Frank, that's a great question. He said, what do I do when I'm riding in warmer temperatures? There are actually are garments that are specifically suited for warmer temperatures. I actually have, they're called arm skins, and the whole intent is to provide not only sun protection, but wicking protection. They actually do make a lot of the tech clothing and jerseys that they make these days are amazing. They will make a substantial difference when keeping yourself cooler. Again, as far as one brand versus another, again, Tommy brought up a great point. I mean, we're here to provide value add. Are we telling you that you need to run out and you need to out Lululemon?
I think
that's not what we're saying. You can. What's up?
Kind of.
The point of entry to get into cycling clothing, you don't really have to spend a lot of money. And again, Tommy, I'll touch on your point earlier, is that basically, a lot of times you pay attention to some of your local shops. They will have they'll have sales on clothing, because I mean, how many times do you see it? Your local shop is has the clearance. Who cares if the stuff is clearance? I mean, I'm not gonna, if you're wearing a bike jersey, I'm not gonna walk up to you and go, "Oh,
Whoop, there we go.
Hey, okay, Skeeter, you're on.
I'm back. Yeah, we lost everybody. I was basically saying to Tom's comment. I mean, this is the kind of stuff I'm typically in. Sort of tech gear, loose tech gear.
Right.
Under Armour, Everlast. Stuff just works well. It wicks off you nicely. Keeps you cool.
Right. Well, and I was going to jump in on that too, and that there's actually baggier shorts out there that are they're generally geared towards mountain bikers, but I see no reason why everyone can't wear them. But they have like a liner in there, and you can also purchase liners separately that you wear like underwear under regular shorts. And then besides the tech, just like tech t-shirts, jerseys, if you look for if you don't want the tight fitting racer cut, if you look for a club fit, I think is what they call it, club fit jerseys, fit a little looser and aren't so tight on you.
Right.
And those are usually pretty nice also.
Well, you guys are obviously in a hell of a lot better shape than I am. But, for me, I go the 2Xs kind of thing. They're loose, at least on me. And, they don't get in the way. They give you lots of mobility. They don't give you a lot of protection, though. I mean, I've taken a couple falls over the summer, and, elbows get scraped up, knees get torn up a little bit. But, it hasn't stopped me from getting back on the bike.
Right. Very good. Hi, Chris, Trailside Bikes.
Hey, Chris.
How's it going, guys?
Good, man. How you doing?
Good. Sorry I didn't get on early. I was having some problems.
Okay. Well, I'm wondering if Jonah is able to.
Yeah, if Jonah can pop out back here.
He's frozen to me, so I'm not sure how he is to everyone else.
Yeah. Hey, can I shift the conversation just a little bit? I know we're talking about riding, in the fall. We're talking about bad, crummy weather and all that. What do you guys do for lighting, either front lighting or rear lighting? And the reason I'm asking is that, one of the lights that I've stumbled across, hey, welcome back, Jonah. One of the lights that I've stumbled across is out of Australia, a company called Fly. They make a Fly 6 and they make a Fly 12. And what to me was unique about them is not only do they have that strobing light that will pulsate to make people gravitate to your attention, but they include a looping 1080p camera, so that if somebody whacks you, you've got that history and all that. What do you guys think of that? Is that just more gimmicky, or is that something really to invest in?
I think, I mean, and it's just me personally, I think it's a great investment, and I think that if you're concerned about traffic, that's definitely something to look at.
Right.
And it's not just for like if you get hit. As a cyclist on the road, you're actually pretty vulnerable. And I had this happen to me not very long ago. I was riding and I was cresting a hill, and a car came by, and it must have been a group of teenagers, but one of them in the passenger seat shot me with a, what do you call them, an airsoft gun. So it's like a BB gun.
Oh, crap.
That shoots the plastic pellets.
Right.
And so, so that kind of stuff can happen. So I quickly jumped on my phone and called the police, and I had the license plate number in my head. I was repeating it as I was dialing, and then I was able to get them. They said they caught somebody. So, but in that type of instance, a camera, both forward and rear facing, would have been awesome, because that would have been proof right there of somebody coming up, something happening, and they could catch somebody and say, okay, well, we have it on tape. It's not just somebody's word.
Gotcha.
That was funny. You I don't know whether you saw my LinkedIn post. I actually saw the Fly 12, their camera. Chris, have you seen this? This company's insane.
No, I haven't seen it yet.
They have a camera and It's actually a camera and it's
And a light.
LED. It's
Right.
insane. I mean, and I
It's
just
a great
I don't
idea.
know why that I hadn't noticed that before.
Yeah, these just came out, Jonah. In fact, the Fly 12 is only shipping, I believe, next month. It's the Fly 6 has been out for a year. It was a Kickstarter. They were actually developed in Australia because apparently the culture in Australia is rather bike unfriendly.
Right.
And so these guys came up with this concept of this looping, camera because they kept getting whacked on bikes in Australia of all things. And so that's where this took off on. So just curious what you guys thought.
Well, it's not unusual. Two quick things here. I want to address Frank Butkus, you are a mechanic, had a question about heart attacks. For beginner, what heart rate call? Sorry, Frank. That's crazy. Poor guy's like red lighting. And then I wanted to turn it over to Chris Van Duzen from Trailside. All right, so Frank, great question. He was talking about heart rate and Skeeter. This is something that's really good, and I know Gunnar, he's a big proponent of heart rate. I've used a heart rate monitor quite a bit, and I find it to be pretty beneficial. I think there definitely is a happy medium with where you need to be so that you're not working too hard. There's 4 zones if I'm not mistaken, and I guess Gunnar, you could probably touch base on this, and I wanted to kind of turn it over to Chris because he can probably, being a shop owner, you could probably, thread a lot of what we were talking about just a few minutes. So yeah, if you could, Gunnar, could you elaborate on that a little bit for Frank?
Well, as far as heart rate zones go, yeah, if you wanted to get really in depth, there's simple tests that you can do to figure out your heart rate zones and then base your training off of that. And I do believe that heart rate training is probably the best way to go. Mm-hmm. But looking at your question, what heart rate calls it quits? As long as you have a doctor's okay, I think you're okay to push it as hard as you can go. If your doctor says it's okay to exercise,
sure,
without any limitations, then I'd say just go for it and don't even worry about heart rate at first. And it's kind of funny because there's published ways of figuring out your supposedly maximum heart rate. But then when you talk to people, there's people that would never ever reach that maximum heart rate. And then there's people that go above and beyond what would normally, because those formulas are just based off of a general average population.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So a lot of the training books that I've read base their training off of, I think it's called functioning threshold heart rate or threshold heart rate. Yeah. So you do I don't want to say a simple test because it's actually hard to do, but you do a time trial to figure out your training heart rate baseline, and then you base your zones off of that. Mm-hmm. And I can provide links to places to figure that kind of stuff out too. But once you do that, the simplest way to then train is to so you have, I think, 5 zones: recovery, endurance, and I think it's called tempo, and then threshold. And you basically want to either train in threshold or in endurance and recovery and stay out of tempo. And the reason for that is because you generally, in the tempo zone, you're working hard enough that you're fatiguing your body, you're fatiguing your heart, but you're not working hard enough to actually increase your threshold.
Oh, okay.
So if you work in threshold and then work on recovery and endurance without going into that tempo zone, then you're either working on increasing your threshold or you're working on endurance and recovering. So,
yeah. So to kind of, and I understand completely what he's saying. And Skeeter, I see you're kind of like, huh? Okay.
Yeah, right.
It's just you got you know what you got to do is you just got to get one and just start playing around with it. I mean, you'll know where you are, and to Gunnar's point, what the heart rate monitor does, it better gets you to understand what your body's doing. Like, for example, I'll use not feeling well. Like sometimes if you're not feeling well and you get up in the morning, your pulse is going to be a lot higher. You may not know that, but that's a good way of doing that. Sometimes to say people when you get up, you should check your pulse, blah, blah, blah. I mean, if you're a purist, you do that. I mean, when I was racing a lot, that was something that I did when I was like training. And there were days when I got up and I was like, heart rate's too high. I may have not necessarily felt like I was, sick or fatigued, but for some reason there was something where my body was like, call it quits. But anyway, they're very beneficial. I believe that with the technology these days, there's so many great widgets. I mean, your freaking phone, whatever. But it is
right there, baby. My Apple Watch.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
right there. Nice. Built right
in. Yeah.
So Chris, Trailside Bikes, located in Brockport. Good buddy of mine, known him for many, many years. He's got a great shop
nice.
Right here in upstate New York. Now, Chris, you deal with customers from high to low, travelers, those kind of folks. Hi, my name's Alex. He's actually traveling across country. He's tuning in now. Based on what you've been hearing, we'd love to kind of hear some of your feedback with some of the things that could be pretty helpful for our audience out there today.
Well, if we're talking about, I'm just kind of taking it all in here of what this whole dynamic is kind of pretty neat. But I get a lot of long distance travelers every day in my shop. I'm right on the Erie Canal, which is also part of the Northern Tier, Adventure Cycling's Northern Tier route, which is pretty cool. So the whole heart rate monitor thing, I don't do a lot of, but though I do agree with it. And I think it's a great tool to get people to, see where they're at, give them a baseline, and then gives them, levels to work towards. I think it's a really good thing. But, I don't do a whole lot with them. I'm not that kind of a shop. So.
Oh no, that's all good. I guess I think just to kind of bring it back around. I mean, the heart rate monitor was part of it. And I think that's the kind of the beauty of Bike Chat is we really want to be able to, address a lot of topics and a lot of concerns. And some people, could care less about heart rate. I think that where heart rate, becomes beneficial, number one, like in Frank's case, like you want to lose some weight. I think that is probably the most beneficial because, there is a thing. Not to totally harp on this, but there's a thing kind of called like the couch potato zone where people will go out, they'll get heart rate monitors, they're like, oh man, I'm riding my bike and I'm killing it, and I jump on the scale and I still weigh whatever it is that I weigh. The thing about a heart rate monitor is it will teach you what zone that you need to work at so that you're in that fat burning zone, and not to turn this into a let's talk about heart rate zone. It is very important. So, so go ahead.
Just want to throw this out there. I mean, I know we're talking about, riding outside in the, late summer, fall, moving into winter window of time. Can we talk about indoor cycling? And what's your feeling on that? Do you go, is there a particular kind of a wheel you buy? Do you buy the rollers and just, balance yourself on one of those things with a
go right for the rollers.
Yeah. That's what I'm asking. What's the ideal?
Videos first.
Well, Chris, this is your time of the year for that. I mean, how do you want to jump in that as a retailer?
Yeah. So Chris, I've got a Trek, carbon fiber road bike that I spent just way too much money on, but I'm loving the hell out of it. I've dropped a bunch of weight. Want to continue doing it over the winter, right? I don't want to kill myself out there, so I'm going to bring it inside. What the hell do I do with it inside that I can still enjoy riding the bike? I understand it's not going to be just like I'm out, in the wind, but what's the best approach?
Well, first off, with the bike, definitely get a trainer-specific tire if you're going to go with a rear-mounted wheel trainer. And you have 3 levels of trainers, basically. Your basic wind trainer, which is really loud and obnoxious, and then magnetic resistant trainer, which is it's quieter and a little more of a road feel. And then you have the fluid trainers, which are going to mimic the feel of the road much more than the other two and are much quieter. Okay. But I would say, you got to kind of, I don't know, some people, I talk to all different kinds of people where they're, they'll plop a movie on and just kind of pedal. I get some guys that just will do 40 minutes and just have the heart rate monitor on and, just pushing numbers. Myself, I'll I like to put a YouTube video on of the Burgundy countryside and just pretend I'm riding through France, for an hour. It's kind of finding your own, what appeals to you,
Now, are those
to not make it boring?
Are those fluid wheels that you're talking about? Are they better than going with the rollers themselves?
Well, the rollers are just, you have to have really good balance. You cannot go on autopilot. On a rear-mounted trainer, you can go on autopilot and just kind of do it,
Okay.
Where the rollers, you got to be on point. If you just move a second, you're going to slam right down, or go into the wall. And like I said, go to YouTube and look up roller accidents, and they're hysterical. But
really, okay.
Yeah, but the effectiveness of the rollers are, it's like being on the road. You're just going to get one hell of a workout in a shorter amount of time than you would with the regular rear-mounted trainer. In my opinion.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's
and to Chris's point, I generally, I have both a magnetic trainer and rollers, and I'll do most of when I'm not riding outdoors, I'll do most of my winter training on the rollers, and it never fails. I'll either once or twice a winter, I will crash on the rollers.
Yeah, really.
It's hilarious, and it's it's very embarrassing too. But it just takes, like Chris said, you just don't pay attention for just a moment, and you all of a sudden you're on the ground, and you don't know what happened. And the other thing to look up on YouTube is roller tricks, because there's some people that are super talented at riding that they can pop wheelies, they can ride no-handed, they can unzip a jersey and take it off as they're riding rollers. And I don't know how they do it. That's a whole nother way. But what you can kind of think of is rollers will, because it forces you to concentrate and it forces you to balance, it's going to work more of your skill, your riding skill. The trainer, the magnetic trainer or the fluid trainer, will give you can focus more on just the workout. And so if you have a tool like a heart rate monitor or something, then you can focus on getting that particular workout. And then one last point about indoor training also is there's probably other brands, but there's a brand of videos that you can get. I think it's called the Sufferfest, sufferfest.com. They have videos that you can get online. They use professional cycling races, but they have motivational sayings. They're fairly motivational because it's like a coach telling you, "Hey, you're lagging. Get back up there, bridge up to the group." And so if you're motivated a little bit more by race tactics and that type of thing, that's kind of a neat way to go.
Very cool.
Oh yeah, Skeeter has it up there. Yeah, Sufferfest.
Yeah, I snagged it.
Great stuff.
Excellent. Very cool.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And then another point, again, and I could say probably, speaking on Chris' behalf, I mean, I've worked retail, and I know that a majority of the consumers, without question, are probably going to get the stationary trainers. And Frank, this one's for you at You Are Mechanic. Typically, the most popular one is a fluid trainer. They work the best. Skeeter, I don't know if you have a stationary trainer. It's a little bit more pricey. Chris, you could probably chime in on this, but the good news about trainers is they last forever. All of the major manufacturers have warranties, those kinds of things. But they're definitely money well spent. One thing I can touch on to Gunner's point about rollers. Yeah, absolutely. They are a very, very focused workout. You are 110% on. There's some tricks, starting in a doorway, starting on the wall. But to Gunner's point, I've fallen off my rollers and it's just a shit show. You're like, bang, bang, boom. And, my wife runs downstairs. What the hell happened? I mean, you got to realize you're humping and you're like, and And one thing you got to realize that cycling shoes and the basement, they don't work. You know, you try to put your cycling cleat on the basement floor, and you do this like this yoga pirouette.
Yeah, you're skating. That's right. Yeah, I believe that.
But I can tell you though, the difference between what Gunnar was saying about focusing on the heart rate. I mean, Skeeter, this would be perfect for you for tuning in your fitness. I mean, you can just jump on it, you can zone out. I know to Gunnar's point, and even with what Chris was saying. I mean, my big thing, when I was working out and racing a lot, I would go to Redbox. I'd get a bunch of Redbox. I'd do Netflix, and I would watch a series because I mean the thing is. If you really want to get a decent workout, you really need to ride the trainer for at least more than an hour. I mean, you could do 45 minutes. I'm a big fan, of being able to put some time into it. Like anything, you got to work your way up to it.
All right.
This even me recently, now that the weather started tanking, and having a baby. Not me personally, I didn't have a baby. It'd be amazing, but just to get back into that mode. I mean, it was tough. I mean, the first time I got on my trainer, I was just like, oh my God, I'm like, this sucks. So, I rode for 30 minutes, then I rode for 45 minutes, and then, I was able to kind of, bridge it out a little bit more. But the one good thing about that, Skeeter, to your point, is it does create some mental toughness where you're like, okay, I have to do this. I mean, that's part of the regiment, that's part of the discipline. Like anything you really want, you want to work for, you really have to put the effort in and do that. And that's part of it. I really also recommend, putting on your clothes like you're going riding, because like I said, it's that mentality, that you keep yourself thinking that way. And, it's another way, for you to be able to turn a switch and say, okay, I'm getting on my bike, I'm going to train, I'm going to work out.
Put a fan on too.
Oh my God. Yeah.
You only put a fan in it. Okay.
Yeah, you'll be sweating your ass off.
Yeah. Right. In my case, that's good. Okay, but I'm with you. Yeah, I got you.
Right. Well, and you, our mechanic, was just mentioning, he wants to know, how do you deal with gnats? And I think he's talking about the little ride faster. Keep your mouth closed is the only thing I could think of. I don't know how you deal with gnats when you're riding. Maybe glasses.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I still ride with a visor on my helmet. That helps.
No, Gunnar, that's actually, Chris and Skeeter can probably relate to this. That's a fairly big problem if you're riding the canal in the evening.
If you're in upstate New York on the canal, you get a lot of bugs in your face. Absolutely.
It's brutal.
In the evening,
Chris, you're right there. And Frank, just for you're chiming in right now. I mean, I've literally ridden into like just a wall or a swarm of them. Oh, it's brutal. I mean, you get. Man, I don't have to tell you. I'm not going to get. I mean, you swallow a couple gnats.
Oh, you will.
Protein. You need it.
Just bring a toothbrush. Yeah.
Tequila. Put some little flask of Patron. Yeah. Oh, and then here we go. We got Alex. Hi, my name is Alex chiming in. Alex, actually, he's got some serious concerns, and hey, maybe Frank, you, our mechanic, can help. He says he's concerned about rattlesnakes and bears on this trip. I don't know about you guys. That is not a concern of mine in upstate New York. But hey, Frank,
ride fast.
You're out in the air, right? No, Frank, what do you think about that? You are a mechanic. He's out in the Arizona proper. I don't know. Are you dealing with rattlesnakes? You ever? I mean, I hike all the time, but do you deal with I mean, like, I don't even know. I mean, a bear. How many times you see those videos, like those doctored videos, like where the dude's like getting chased by the bear on like his videos? Like, come on, man, like really? Although, really quick, did you guys ever see that clip of the rider getting taken out by that by the animal that ran across the road? He was like riding or training in Africa.
Yeah, I did see that. That was funny as hell. Yeah.
That was crazy.
Yes, it was.
All right, and so I mean, as far as rattlesnakes, I mean, again, Alice, I can kind of elaborate on that a little bit. You just it's like you said, you really just have to be a little bit cautious in the terrain that you're riding on, and of course, like anything, when you're stopping, you need to pay attention to that. Bears, honestly, half the time they're more afraid of you than you're afraid of them. I lived in northern New Jersey where there was a bear problem, and they'd take one look at you, they'd freak out, and run the other way. Actually, a funny thing is, though, guys, you did get me thinking. A very, very major issue here in upstate New York. Not so much that it's getting cooler, but maybe in some of the areas where it is a little bit warmer, are ticks. By the way, you do need to be aware.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Ticks. It's a very, 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 very rampant problem here in upstate New York. I can't tell you how many ticks I've pulled off myself, but there is the token tick check. You can get Lyme disease. It is no bueno once you do get Lyme disease. So you pay attention to that. But the reality of it is, no matter where I think you're riding, it probably makes some sense to do a little bit of research. I mean, obviously you can thank Google or just the local communities that are out there. But I mean that those are valid questions. There's no doubt. Those are certainly things you need to think about depending on where you're riding. But I did want to throw that out there about the ticks, and I'm just making sure.
No, well, and so now that just got me thinking. So one of the places that I ride at a lot has a ton of poison ivy, and so there was, I think it was 2 summers ago, that I must have brushed up against some, and I got a terrible case of it all up my leg, and it looked like I was one of those zombies from Walking Dead or something on the side of my leg, and it was terrible. So what I started doing is like, I think they're like football socks. Under Armour makes them, and I think Nike makes them, and they're actually fairly thin, but they go all the way up to your knee. And I started wearing those, and probably, I don't look like the typical cyclist because I have these knee-high socks, but I don't care because I'm not getting poison ivy ever again when I'm riding out there. So
What's interesting about those liners that you're talking about, I see more and more people every day go by my shop because I'm right on a trail that are wearing those for sun protection, which is interesting. They're all loaded up with those things. They look like ghosts going down the trail. It's kind of funny. But, yeah, I didn't think about that aspect of it because I've seen some nasty mutual friend of Donna's and mine, Russell, got a flat one set right down in the old patch of poison ivy. Woo! You didn't get any lemon for a month. Let's just say that,
Oh, yeah, terrible.
So yeah, be careful where you're sitting.
Yeah.
And Skeeter, another good point, just sort of about the transition to indoor training. You really want to kind of make sort of set that area up so that it is a specific area to go and ride your trainer. I think too many times people kind of tuck them into the corner as an afterthought. Again, you want, I mean, you're basically turning your bicycle into a piece of workout equipment.
Right. That's exactly right.
I found like with my particular trainer that I have, it's the Kinetic Rock and Roller. It actually came with a mat, like a jigsaw puzzle mat that you could put down. I put it on there. I mean, is it making the experience that much greater or lesser? I mean, it's just the purpose of, that's the area where I ride and work out on my bike. That's the thing. One of the other key things, though, too, in terms of the trainer setup, there is actually a wheel block that's very critical that you may not want to necessarily forget about. Some of the trainers do come with them. Some of them it's an afterthought.
Yeah.
You can get them so that you can stack them so that it changes the variation of your bike. But that's another way just to kind of break up the monotony of getting on your bike. I mean, so just to kind of to come back around is make it a specific area. Fans, I think it was either Chris or Gunnar, you mentioned that ventilation is key for 2 reasons. You'll sweat your ass out because you're not moving, but I can tell you from experience, and Chris, you probably can agree on this, having worked on bikes where people rode, on trainers with no fans, sweat can be incredibly caustic, and it's very damaging to your bike.
Kill a headset in one season.
Will it really? Oh,
no, absolutely.
the thing about it is it's just like that. It's like that silent corrosive agent. You just don't see it because you're sitting there riding your bike, and again, your sweat bead will dissipate and it'll drip into the headset. It can, to Chris's point, it crushes your headset. I've seen people come in and their headset cap is like totally corroded. And they're like, I don't know why this happened. And I'm like, well, do you ride your bike on a trainer? Like, yeah, we do. So,
triathletes are the worst with that.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, their bikes are the most disgusting bikes I've ever worked on.
Oh wow! Have you guys tried the trainers where the rear wheel comes off and you actually get? I think they're called Wahoo Kicker.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on those? I mean, they're ungodly expensive at $1,000, but are they worth it?
I haven't been on one, so I really can't say.
Okay.
Right. I haven't tried one either. They look great. And, I guess you got to kind of balance the fact of what you're getting. I know that was it Wahoo? They have some interactive component to it where it connects to the computer and stuff.
Yeah, that's honestly what sort of got me interested in them was that it had that interactivity with the computer and it'll tie right to your video, so it all even gives you more of a simulated, type of an experience simulating being out on the road. Right.
So I think if those benefits or those features would help to motivate you, then I'd say for sure go for it. The basis of the trainers where you take off the rear wheel, to me it seems great because you're not wearing out your tire anymore.
Right.
It's a direct drive, so with whatever computer or power meter or whatever they're using as the feedback there, it's right there. So that part of it, and I know that a lot of the cycling teams, the professional teams and stuff, a lot of them are transitioning over to those types of trainers for their warm-ups and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it has to do with just that it's a better setup.
Right. All right.
So
thanks.
And I kind of cut in the tail end as I know where we're going with this conversation. It seems to me that I've been going to a lot of cyclocross races. That seems to be the more popular setup. I think the big reason for that is that it simulates the most realistic training. I mean,
right.
From what I understand. I mean, it's twofold. I feel like something like that is a very high ticket price. And I think the bang for your buck, what you get out of it at a consumer level such as yourself, if you're not doing any type of competitive cycling.
No, I'm not.
I just don't think. I mean, as much as somebody can try to sell you on the advantages of it, I just don't think that it's worth it. I think a fluid trainer is just as good, and plus it's a fraction of the price.
Well, right. I mean, this thing's freaking, it's $1,000, guys. It's serious money. Yeah.
Yeah. So
you can spend all the money in the world. It isn't going to make it better,
No.
Right.
Hey, so I just want to give a shout out to a couple people. Gregory Reddy, Namaste Man, he tuned in, and our folks from Roof Rack Ranger. They've got a pretty cool app. We're going to be doing some collaborative stuff with those guys coming up. If you get a chance, check those guys out. It is an Apple app. Roof Rack Ranger. Yeah, you guys. I'm an Android guy. I can't download it, but if Skeeter, you're an Apple guy.
I'm an Apple guy. I'll check it
out. Yeah. Check them out. Roof Rack Ranger. We've been talking. They got a really cool app. And Gunnar, are you an Apple guy?
I am an Apple guy. iPhone and iPad, so I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah, check them out. Roof Rack Ranger, but and also my good friend Gregory Reddy, Namaste Man.
Oh, check that out. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
He's another good buddy of mine from Periscope. So a couple other things that keep looping through my mind about the trainers. One of the other things too is a lot of times those of you guys folks that are watching, if you're looking for some good ways to stay motivated, you guys can throw trainer parties. You can get together. You can find other people that ride. Skeeter, here's a great suggestion. If you have a buddy or friend that that you ride with, say, hey man, sure, set your bike up and leave it at my basement. Who cares? Because it's not like they're riding it outside. So that you can say, hey man, every Saturday at 7, let's get together and we'll throw on, Days of Thunder or whatever it is. But
Right.
I mean, you know, the thing about riding inside, the thing about training inside, it is nothing to do with the physical effort. It's the mental game, man. It really is, because at the end of the day, you're like, what the hell do I want to go in my basement and ride my bike for? Because really,
Absolutely.
we're outdoor cyclists. So I mean, bridging the original point of what I was trying to talk about with clothing.
Right.
You really want to try to test your tolerances for temperatures. And am I telling you to ride in subarctic temperatures? Chris, you know this for sure. They make gear for riding in every possible freaking element and temperature. I mean, you're gonna know when you get to a point you're like, to hell with this. But what I'm saying to you is if you can extend how much longer that you ride outside within reason, it basically, you spend less time in the basement. And lastly, the other point that I want to make too is that on those nicer days in the winter where it miraculously does warm up, you know the first thing you're going to do? You're going to gear up and you're going to get your ass outside. You're going to go, the roads are dry, the sun's out, I want to ride outside. Because I don't know about you, Gunnar, and especially you, Chris. I mean, when it's nice out here in upstate New York and it's been snowing like the Dickens and we get a good dry day, man, I'm out on the road for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's definitely for sure.
Cool.
Okay. So we've definitely touched on a bunch of different things as far as talk points. Chris, I don't know if you want to kind of add anything. I do want to highlight a couple other points. I know that Gunnar has a scope coming up next Tuesday, which is pretty cool. Those of you guys watching probably going to want to check that out. I'll let Gunnar kind of talk about that. Gunnar, you want to elaborate on your scope that you got planned for next Tuesday?
Yeah, well, we're going to be doing Blab, and basically a craft beer based Blab.
Cool.
I believe that Jonah and I are going to both try to get Stone Brewing Delicious IPA, and so we'll be on at the same time doing our review, I guess you could say, of that particular beer. And so if anybody on here wants to see if they can find that at their local store, pick some up, drink it with us. We can all banter back and forth and discuss what we think about it. And to me, the reason why I picked that particular beer is because I had picked up a 6-pack for a friend of mine who has celiac. And so it's actually a gluten-free or gluten, I guess, technically it's gluten reduced. So it's produced like a regular beer, but they do something to it to remove the protein gluten particles in it. So, but I want to taste it and see how it compares to, a regular beer.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll be doing that, and that should be exciting. So that'll be Tuesday night, same time, 8:00 Central, 9:00 Eastern,
Awesome.
on Blab. So
Perfect.
I should try to get the link for that and tweet that out or get it in here.
Definitely.
You guys, have you tried the Imperial Russian Stout by Stone Brewery?
I haven't.
Oh boy, it's a limited release. It's hard as heck to get. Some of the strongest, darkest beer I've ever had. It's delicious.
Where are you getting that here? Is that you getting that from AJ's here in upstate?
No, I actually found it in Cuca Lake down in Hammondsport, of all places. And there's a small little mom and pop shop, and they have this, just outrageous, classic beer, craft beer kind of collection that this guy's known for, I guess, buying and reselling. So I found it down there.
Wow.
Nice.
But since you mentioned Stone Brewery, definitely look it up. It was their most recent release, and of course it's a once a year, so it's gone now. But it's
Great.
really, really, really strong. It's really good.
Awesome.
Well, I've had a couple of times, and actually I kept some in my beer cellar. I have a couple of beers down in my basement, but I'm wearing a Surly Brewing T-shirt. And that's a local Minnesota beer, and they make a Russian Imperial Stout that is released in October every year. And around here, it's like a huge deal. They have a release party and Darkness Days, and I've gotten my hands on a couple of them in the past, and I mean, that's an amazing beer. If you like the dark, heavy Imperial Russian stouts, that's another one to look
on
out
the dark side of things. Yeah.
Excellent. Nice.
They're good, but that ends up being the reason why a lot of us spend the time on the trainer.
Yeah, you go.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's funny. It's funny. It's like everybody shares this same common knowledge. It's funny. There's a Dogfish Head beer that I like called Burton Barton or whatever it is. Same conversation. It's like an oak aged Imperial or it's IPA. I don't know if you've had that, but same conversation. It comes in like a 4-pack. And
Okay.
anytime you get beers in 4-pack, they're in the 4-pack for a reason. You have one, you're like where? It's like,
Yeah.
like okay, but and you don't want to get on your trainer or do any kind of physical activity.
No.
But,
Yeah.
It is funny, but again, just kind of tying back into the whole blab concept. It is a lot of fun to be sharing what we love to do.
Sure.
Definitely appreciate everybody's time. And Chris, like I said, sorry you had a little technical difficulties going on there. Your shop located in Brockport. How long have you guys been in business? I'm sorry, it's been
This is my third season.
That's
nice.
Yeah, it's working out pretty well. So you can see my penny farthing in the back there. See that?
Yeah, I was looking at that. That's
what is that? I see that. Yeah. Yeah, that's quite the bike.
There was a shop I worked at, and this is years and years ago, but they had a penny farthing that we locked up outside of the front window, and occasionally either the owner or I would ride it around. But those are so cool. You don't see them too often. And I was actually recently
it's my logo, and when I put my sign up, my next door neighbor comes out. He's 85 years old. He's like, "Oh, I got one of those in my living room." And I'm like, "You got to be kidding me!" So after I did a bunch of renovations, he brought it over and said, "Put it out front." So if anything, if people don't stop, I get people that take their pictures with it and stuff, and I get boats going by all day long to part of my shop and stuff. So that's pretty
cool. Yeah.
So Skeeter, I actually did have a question for you, and ironically, it's amazing how we did a bike chat scope, and we didn't really talk about fat bikes at all. One of the things that you can actually do, believe it or not, to sort of truncate that fear of the road is to consider getting into what is called as a fat bike. Fat bikes they originally actually started out as snow bikes. Surly, I think, was ironically one of the first companies that I was aware of that was actually making them. But the benefit of the wider tire is you can run very, very low temperatures or tire pressure rather, and they literally will go anywhere. They will go in snow, they will go in sand and mud. So the breakthrough barrier of getting into riding through the winter, that actually might be. Again, there is an upfront cost, but the benefit of being able
it's fun as hell.
The only limitations with the fat bike are you. I mean, you can ride it on the canal, the road, the snow.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and they're very buoyant. I mean, they don't obviously float on top of the snow, but I mean, bear in mind a traditional mountain bike. With the smaller tires, much more apt to punch through the snowpack conditions versus a fat bike. So the other thing too is I don't know, Chris, do you guys have demos for fat bikes?
I don't know, but I got them here. You can go and ride one if you want. I'll demo one. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I got a whole bunch of stock right now, but they're a blast. And then I get so many guys this year that their full suspensions were hanging all summer, and they were riding their fat bikes. I got two I just rebuilt right here that they rode them all year long. So they're not just for snow.
No.
All right, scope it out. Thanks, Jonah.
Hey, okay. Well, listen. I think we're gonna wrap it up. Otherwise, don't forget we will be doing this again same time next week. We'll have some special guests, I believe. We may potentially be having the folks from Roof Rack Ranger tuning in. Also, I believe Gunner has some folks that he may have joining us as well. But in the meantime, I do want to thank the folks that have tuned in this evening. I do see that my name is Alex is still hanging out. Of course, Skeeter. Thank you, Greg Redding. Namaste, man. You're hanging out there in the background. And again, Chris from Trailside Bikes. Guys, if you are locally in Rochester, please feel free to give them some love in there. Conveniently located right on the Erie Canal. and carry a full selection of bikes. They're on Facebook, they're on Twitter, and you guys are on Instagram. And of course, my good friend Skeeter, I do appreciate you for tuning in. We actually had a brief dialogue earlier today, so he was not necessarily not going to tune in, but did make his time available, so I do appreciate that. And of course, lastly, I do appreciate Gunnar Soros, a very good connection. It has certainly evolved out of live streaming. Very fun personality, and it is great to use it as an example of the power of not only social media but live streaming. So, guys, on behalf of Gunnar, I want to say thanks for tuning in. Don't forget, Tuesday also is going to be the Beer Scope. Look for that as well. And again, everybody, make sure you're following everybody. And certainly let's stay in contact. And if there's anything else that I can do, please feel free to reach out via DM or let me know privately, and I can give you my contact information and go from there.
Great. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Nice.
Peace.
Nice talking.
Nice everybody talking.
That was fun.
Thanks. Thank you. Bye. Sweet, man.